All right, it's now 5:30 p.m. I hereby call this Monday, May 5th, Airway Heights City Council Legislative Session to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, and one of our reminders to be open and honest, that'll lead us into roll call. Mr. Schubert?
Thank you, Mr. Perry. We'll start with Chair Bowman. Give me 1 second. I'm looking who's somebody's in the waiting room. Vice Chair Perry.
Present.
Councilmember Beinecker.
Here.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Present.
Councilmember Malay.
Present.
Councilmember Morton.
Present.
And Chair Bowman.
Present.
Thank you. Let the record show we have the following staff in attendance. We have City Manager Albert Tripp, City Attorney Dan Gibbons, Planning Director Heather Troutman, Assistant Public Works Director Steve Flute, Lieutenant Jake Keith, Corporal Adam Johnson, Clerk Treasurer Stanley Schubert, Park and Rec Director J.C. Kennedy, and Ms. Lise Minotti. I think that's all. That concludes the roll call. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Schubert. That brings us on to agenda approval. One noted change, we'll have a presentation of the 2025 legislative session. Any other proposed changes to tonight's agenda?
No additional proposed changes.
That desire of council on the agenda?
Move to approve.
First
I'll
by Mr.
second that.
Brenner, and second by Chair Bowman. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 6-0. Agenda approved. Moving on to council reports. Comments online?
I don't have anything, but I just want to thank you, Davin, for taking over the meeting. I inevitably got sick once again, so I appreciate you.
No problem, Chair Bowman. All right, and that'll move us into our presentation tonight from Gordon Thomas and Honeywell. Ms. Shea.
That funny story. Nice to be having a warm welcome for the Bloomies and got to be a part of that. I grew up in Cheney area with my family for a little bit, so it was nice coming back to the area. So thank you for having me tonight. Good evening, Council. Great to see all you. My name is Emily Shea, state lobbyist for the city, and really serving as your eyes, ears, and voice in Olympia this year. It is a pleasure to be here with you all today and to advocate for the city of Airway Heights throughout this 2025 legislative session. And I don't know, do you got the slide deck up for everyone? Awesome. And so you can go to next slide there. Before I get started, I wanted to remind you all that I will be sending out an end of session comprehensive written report later this week. That report will have a detailed budget summary and descriptions of each bill that passed the legislature that may have a nexus with issues relating to the city function or the city of Airway Heights priorities. It's a very extensive, long report, so I will try to do my best to summarize that tonight. But if you find that that type of reading is highly enjoyable for you, feel free to read that in its entirety. Totally up to you. This evening, I'm going to provide an overview of the 2025 legislative session, discuss the outcomes of the city's legislative priorities, and wrap up by talking about next steps moving forward. Move to the next slide. It was the first year of this year's biennium, and it was a long session, lasting 105 consecutive days. The primary objective of a long session is to adopt new biennial budgets, which the legislature did successfully. Democrats held strong majorities in both chambers and set the agenda in terms of what policies they wanted to prioritize. There were also 24 new legislators this year, including a new governor. The legislature finished at 6 p.m. on April 27th, which is sine die. After some concerns that a special session may be needed, Democrat legislators were able to reach an agreement, and all three budgets were passed on the final day of session. Governor Ferguson now has 20 days from the passage of the budget to sign it as is, veto it altogether, or line item veto certain aspects he does not approve of. In addition to adopting budgets, legislator considered over 2,500 bills this year and ultimately passed 431. Because this was the first year of the biennium, any bill that did not pass this year, you will automatically see as potentially being reintroduced or reconsidered into next session, so the 2026 session. You can go to the next slide, please. As I mentioned, the primary objective of the long session is to adopt the budgets, which includes the operating, the capital, and the transportation budget. Leading into the beginning of the legislative session, legislative leadership reported that they were facing a $15 billion operating shortfall this year. This shortfall was largely caused by rising costs, lower than expected tax collections, and increased demand for public services and expansion of certain programs. The operating budget, just for reference, funds all state agency operations, the largest of which is the K-12 education system. This 25-27 operating budget was a grand total of $77.8 billion, a $6 billion increase over the current spending levels. The final budget leaves $2.3 billion in total reserves, about half of what the state treasurer recommends for the reserve level, and it relies on $9.5 billion generated through new taxes and fees. Some of these taxes include a B&O tax increase, capital gains tax increase, an estate tax increase, among others. The capital budget is the second budget we'll talk about. This funds public and nonprofit construction projects that are non-transportation related. This was a $7.5 billion budget, primarily funded through the sale of bonds that a portion of the operating budget is dedicated to paying back. This is the budget that funds most projects requested by cities. The average amount awarded to local community projects this year was $604,000. Additionally, this budget funds several grant programs for housing and homelessness, local fish culverts, and the Public Works Assistant Account backfill. The third and final budget was the transportation budget. Revenues that fund the transportation budget, primarily the gas tax, were continuing to decline. Heading into session, budget writers indicated that the budget faced a $1 billion shortfall in 25-27, and many communities were concerned because the governor's budget delayed funding for key projects around the state. On a bipartisan note, the House and Senate easily passed a $15.5 billion transportation funding plan with $1.3 billion in Climate Commitment Act funds. This one relies on $3.2 billion in new taxes and fees, including a 6-cent gas tax increase. For the most part, the legislature was able to honor previous commitments, but no new projects were funded and some projects continued to be delayed. Next slide, please. So now moving on to the good stuff, discuss the outcome of the city's top priorities. The city identified priorities for the 2025 session, which is the last time you saw me in Zoom pants, I probably bet. The city initially considered requesting $1.5 million for the public safety campus this year. But after receiving initial feedback from the legislative delegation and adjusted price for the project, the city submitted a funding request for $880,000 for the public safety campus. We worked with budget leadership as well as the 6 legislators, including Senator Holy, Representative Bowles, and Representative Graham, as well as the city manager Albert, as well as I believe the chair Larry coming to visit me this year after their visit, which was 5 years ago, I believe, to go and talk to the legislators and advocate on the behalf for the public safety campus. Ultimately, the final budget included $906,000 for the public safety campus, meaning we were appropriated very much larger than the average amount for a city. The city also focused on the Clean Water Access Initiative and supported funding for the Department of Ecology and Health to develop a multi-year funding strategy to reduce PFAS contamination. In the budgets, $100 million for the MACA account was transferred to the general fund. The budget also allocated $84.4 million to the Remy Dole Action Grant, or RAG program, that fully funded 11 total projects. The city of Airway Heights applied for the well 1 and 4 treatment and the water supply purchase with Spokane in the RAG subdivision, the Safe Drinking Water Action Grant Program. And this was unfortunately found out in the 2024 year that no new funding was included for these specific projects for the 25-27 biennium due to the large funding gap that we just talked about in the MACA capital account. Additionally to note, in the capital budget, it was allocated $4 million for investigating and monitoring the sources of impacts of PFAS, including a study on managing discharge at municipal wastewater treatment facilities. Included in the transportation, the city joined the Spokane Regional Transportation Council in requesting the state make the following investments listed on slide 3. Although the final transportation budget does not include funding for the projects listed above, it does maintain the amount previously allocated in the last biennium for the 6th, 10th, 12th AB improvements from FIBSIB, and nothing has been delayed or swiped, which we saw in a lot of other projects in the transportation budget this year. I also did want to note, since I have you here, that the North Spokane Freeway was not further delayed as well, and it reflects inflation levels. With $370 million for this biennium funded, $411 million for the next biennium, and $28 million push for the future biennium, as compared to the transportation budget that was released in the 23-25 biennium, that pushes $80 million into that future biennium. So you see a little bit of a less delay in that future biennium. Additionally, the city was actively involved in discussions regarding the continued funding for the Sandy Williams Connecting Communities Pilot Program. The final transportation budget included 33.2 for this program, which aims to reconnect communities divided by state highways. This means that the US 2 active transportation improvements and the US 2 pedestrian and multimodal enhancement project phase 1 will receive that full funding that was requested in the previous biennium, since it was included in that $33 million allocated in the budget and was listed in those projects. Stop next slide. Thank you so much. During session, the city also supported the legislative priorities of the Association of Washington Cities, which the city is a member of. Here are some additional legislative issues that were important to AWC and the city took a part in advocating for. The first one was around public safety, which was one of the city's top priorities as well, and highlighted the need for the public safety campus. During his campaign and first session into office, Democratic Governor Bob Ferguson pledged to dedicate $100 million to law enforcement hiring grants due to the fact that we ranked last in number of officers nationwide. This initiative was advanced to the legislature and proposals introduced by Senator Holy and Representative Abel. Separately, the legislature's Democrat members proposed an alternative framework for these grants in a bill called House Bill 2015, as listed above, suggesting that the allocation of the grant funding be contingent upon specific law enforcement training and operational standards, as well as a requirement for local jurisdictions to have established a dedicated local tax to ensure the grant's long-term funding. The legislature chose to adopt a version of this House Bill 2015 and invest $100 million in grants. Next, as you see, is land use. Continuing efforts from prior legislative session, the Washington State Legislature dedicated attention to certain land use proposals. In the midst of these housing bills, I wanted to mention a bill that Airway Heights supported and continues to work on. It's a 6-month extension on their GMA comprehensive requirements update, so it gave an extension on those GMA. Lastly, I'll share 2 important highlights regarding fiscal sustainability. First, the cap of property tax growth at 1%. This was a huge priority for AWC. Despite all the good efforts and outreach of city officials, unfortunately, a modest revision to the local property tax cap died in the last week of legislative session in budget conversations. Governor Ferguson's indication of a likely veto of any property tax increase led to the final version that focused instead on adjustments to voter-approved property tax levies for school district enrichment programs. The second is around state shared revenues. The state did continue to honor the distribution of revenues to local governments, which is noteworthy only because it's often been on the chopping block and cities have had to be on defense mode when it comes to state shared revenues. Next step. So now that session is over, what's next? And why I'm here. I'd encourage the city to consider ways of thanking your legislators, not just for representing the city's interests, but for the dedication of time and energy to public service. I know it meant a lot for them that Albert and some of your team came to the Hill this year as well. You all know that it's a thankless job sometimes, so receiving encouragement and appreciation for fellow elected officials can go a long way. And I'm happy to help brainstorm if you need help for that as well. Lastly, it's never too late to stop thinking about what our priorities should be for 2026 session, even though we concluded about a week ago and I can't wait to take a break. In the fall, we will update the city's legislative agenda to reflect items that were accomplished this year and new items that we potentially might add, recognizing it will not be a budget year and it will be a short session year of 60 days. Lobbying is a year-round effort, and we will continue to work with the delegation, other legislators, and city staff on the city's legislative priorities. Go to the next slide, too. And with that, thank you for your time and dedication. It's been an honor, seriously, to advocate for the city of Airway Heights, this being my first year, and a warm welcome for that as well. I now return the floor to you to continue facilitating the discussion. And as a reminder, I will be sending out that end of session report, hopefully in the next week or so. And then we'll also be sending monthly reports during the interim on developments and updates that we work through in the interim. And then I actually had one more slide. Yep, you're on it. And this is just our contact information for both my teammate and Brianna Murray, who is also on the phone. And I forgot to give her an introduction, but if she wanted to briefly do that as well, my teammate on the Zoom call here. So.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Emily mentioned, I'm her co-conspirator in Olympia. She did an excellent job providing you all with an update this evening. I'm really here to just provide added support and help out with answering any questions you may have.
And with that, we'll stay with questions if you need any answers to.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Shea. Ms. Murray, any questions from council?
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. It's appreciated. And the continued state dollars earmarked for needs in Airway Heights here is great. Great to hear. Thank you. All right, and that'll move us on to staff reports.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. We'll start with City Manager Tripp. Do you have any report for council?
I have no reports. Just great to be back.
Thank you. Mr. Gibbons, any report?
No report, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Troutman, any report?
Thank you. Just briefly, we have the Planning Commission coming up next week, and we'll be going over an application which will be coming before City Council for a preliminary plat planning and development, likely in June. And we'll be going over the latest reports from several of our comprehensive planning or growth management initiatives, including where we are with the climate resiliency for the risk assessment, as well as looking at our land capacity analysis as we move forward with developing or preparing to develop our chapters for the comprehensive plan. And that concludes the update. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Troutman. Mr. Flute, any report? No report. Lieutenant Keith, any report?
No report tonight, thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Corporal Johnson? No report from me. And then Mr. Kennedy, any report for council?
I do have a report. The Washington Association of School Administrators recognized a couple of our team members. Pastor Jacob Powers, who is our Park Advisory Board President, and our Deputy Director, Andy Gardner. Both Andy and Jacob played pivotal roles in passing the November 2024 bond for Cheney Public Schools. Their dedication and strategic leadership were instrumental in effectively communicating the bond's benefits and rallying community support. Andy and Jacob focused their outreach efforts in their local Airway Heights community, building understanding about the bond's impact on educational enhancements and facility improvements. Together, they exemplified teamwork and commitment to the district's educational future, creating a sense of unity that led to the successful passage of the bond. Their efforts deserve recognition and for positively shaping Cheney Public Schools' growth and development. So again, this was an award that both Andy and Jacob received from the Washington State Association of School Administrators. I believe that Cheney School District Superintendent Ben Fernie nominated him for this, and it was something that happened this past Friday. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of that.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. That concludes the staff reports.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Schubert. No call for any public hearings. That moves us on to the consent agenda. Item A is the approval of minutes from City Council meeting April 21st, 2025. Item B is the approval of minutes from the study session from April 28th, 2025. And item C is a Century West work order number 3 in the amount of $50,000. Is the desire of council on the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Been moved by Ms. Morton,
I'll second that.
second by Chair Bowman. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously 6-0. And at this time, we'll move on to our action items. And we will have an executive session prior to item F. Mr. Tripp, should we do that at this time or right before item F?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, you're referring to item D?
I believe we'll have an executive session prior to item F, but should we do that at this time before action items or just right before item F?
I would suggest right before item F.
That'll move us to item D, which is the Cheney School District and Airway Heights Recreation Center MOU. I believe that's Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you. This is consideration of a memorandum of understanding with Cheney School District. This is to help school district employees be more aware of the variety of insurance programs that will give them access to membership here at the Recreation Center.
All right, and this was briefed the prior study session. Any questions from council? Do I have a motion or the desire of council on this MOU?
Move to approve.
And first moved by Chair Bowman. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Ritchie. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously 6-0. All right, that'll move us on to item E, the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Airway Heights and the Airway Heights Public Safety Guild. Mr. Tripp.
Very much, Mr. Chair. I'm just spooling my way over to that location. Chair and council, in anticipation of this particular item, we're going to ask for council's authorization and discretion to move forward with the agreement tonight, subject to further clarification on 3 particular items, and we'll highlight those as we step through the process here. But in general, as pursuant to council briefings last week, this particular bargaining agreement is a collective bargaining agreement between the city and Airway Heights Public Safety Guild, which is a collective bargaining group that represents all uniformed police officers within the city of Airway Heights. The previous agreement expired on December 31st, 2023, and still have been in contract negotiation since. We're pleased to report we've reached proposed terms on an agreement that would run between 2024 through 2027. As outlined within your packet, it's inclusive of a few major components, not least of which is a wage increase across those 4 different years, especially assignment pay associated, depending upon which specialty officer is specializing in it, a change to the medical coverage for the employee and the family, and then an incentive for longevity, which ranges dependent upon the individual's length of time and employment with the city. In general, this would memorialize the terms and working conditions for the collective bargaining group with the city of Airway Heights. I noted earlier there were 3 areas that we wanted to ask council for authorization and discretion to be able to act upon after the meeting, and they include a question pertaining to retro pay. I'm strolling down to it so I can reference it for you within the actual agreement. This is towards the very first is going to be on page, this is 58 of the packet, 58 of 2121. Title benefits, year benefits, maximum medical, dental, and vision contribution by the city. In particular, what we want to have authorization to do further discussion on and nail this particular piece down is the 2024 allocation of the $500 VIVA amount that's stated within the proposed contract. That's item number 1. Item number 2 relates to a retro pay of holidays worked in 2024 for those that might be affected by that. And the last component, which is the language change. You might recall earlier this year, we had a conversation with the council about learning the uniforms that the officers utilize daily are taxable in nature, whereas historically weren't taxable. And we've tried to incorporate language in here that acknowledges that, but the number, the dollar amount associated with that taxable amount is actually reflective of it's $1,500. It should be $1,825 when you bake in a tax component with it as well. Wanted the flexibility to go back and update this to be reflective of that our new understanding that it should be taxable and the correct amount. Having said that, I'll pause for any questions by the council. So we're essentially asking council to consider approving the agreement subject to those 3 different changes that I noted earlier. One on the uniform allowance, one on the VIVA contribution, and then the other on the holiday hours.
Mr. Tripp, I think my only question to that would be, does the guild back up those 3 changes? Or are they just legal requirements that we have to abide by?
No, in response, Chair Bowman, the items that we talked about earlier are items we talked about previously with the guild. And we came to an understanding on it. It's just that the language seems to suggest something otherwise. So rather than asking the council to adopt the language as is, we'd rather go back and have a meeting of the minds with both parties, make sure we're on the same page with that same understanding, before asking you to adopt something that maybe they differ with. But
All right.
We've been aware of it. It's just that we need the language to be reflective of the same, given that they took action on that same language.
All right. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. Mr. Breinecker.
Move to approve, subject to the 3 aforementioned items by Mr.
Been moved by Mr. Breinecker. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Morton. She was first. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Tripp and Representatives Vaughn. I know this has been a lengthy process, balancing the needs of the Public Safety Guild and our police force of our city, but also with our tight budget. So congrats on getting this done. And this time we'll move to an executive session for item F. Mr. Gibbons.
Yes, the purpose of the executive session will be to consider the qualifications of an applicant/candidate for appointment to elective office. And it's just discussion. The vote will be in the open session.
Estimated time.
You tell me. I would estimate it at 15 minutes. And so I'd say we would be back on the record at 6:15.
Okay, we'll open the executive session at 5:58 and we'll resume open meeting at 6:15. All right, this time I'll call the regular meeting back in session at 6:15 p.m. And that'll move us on to item F, appointment of new city council members. And our first appointment is looking at the vacant position of Councilmember Messing for position number 3. And do I have a motion from council? Mr. Beinecker.
I make a motion to draft Bill Campbell.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Beinecker for Mr. William Campbell III for position number 3. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Ritchie. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes unanimously 6-0. Welcome aboard, Mr. Campbell, and that'll be effective upon fulfilling all duties required. Mr. Gibbons?
There's a number of boxes you will have to check. I don't recall all of them right now. One of them is posting a bond, but we will get you on board as quickly as we can because it's a vacant position. Thank you.
Welcome aboard. And our next vacancy will be for position number 2, the impending resignation of Councilmember Ritchie at a date to be determined in the near future. Do I have a motion from council on that impending vacancy?
I would like to nominate Jesse Camacho for that position.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Chair Bowman, seconded by Mr. Ritchie for Mr. Jesse Camacho. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes unanimously 6-0. And that'll be our position number 2 coming up. Thank you all for applicants, Mr.
Should we mention that we anticipate additional openings?
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you to all those who've applied, if they're listening, or it's for city staff to convey. It's been already mentioned publicly by Mr. Beinecker, and I believe Mr. Malays expressed his intention not to run. So come 2026 and this November, there'll be at least 4 positions open. So we'll always evolve to run. Mr. Schubert?
Just want to make everyone aware the elections office registration is this week from today till Friday. So if there's any interest, you need to put your name in the hat now.
They encourage all interested citizens to run.
And then do you want to, Mr. Tripp, kind of explain the process of anybody who is not aware of how to run for that position as well?
Certainly, and I'll also, with the applicants that applied for the positions that council is discussing this evening, I'll follow up with an email to share the link for where they can sign up in order to run for the roles and roles themselves.
Yeah.
In general, in a nutshell, there's about a 4-day window which starts today, and I think it closes on May 9th, which is Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, by which a candidate can enter their name to be considered on the November general election ballot in order to run for the position. You have to first sign up during this window time. Secondly, that gets you on the ballot for November for voters to consider you. If it doesn't happen in that sequence, then people will not have an option to consider you as a potential candidate. So first step is to sign up. I think there's a nominal fee for it and some information that the elections office asks, but I'll forward that information over to all the applicants so that they're aware as well.
Yep, and I believe it's 5 p.m. on Friday the 9th. That's the deadline. So, and then it closes. So make sure you get it in prior to that. All right. And that'll move us on to our ordinances. Item G, ordinance C-1079, 17.06, neighborhood family residential zone. Outman.
Thank you very much, Chair and Council. I'm Heather Troutman, Planning Director, and I'm coming back before you today for one final item for a vote of the City Council, and this is part of the 22 ordinances with regards to missing middle housing. This one remaining item had to do with a clarification with regards to driveway width. We have met with representatives of the housing community, as well as our Public Works Department and our Fire Department, to discuss driveway width. And this section is in your packet and it's on page 74. It's under 1706.095 on the neighborhood residential zone, and it had to do with the clarification of driveway width. And so the language as proposed is 16 feet wide for the driveway approach. That's consistent with our current public works standards. And that would go to a minimum of 12 feet wide for the length of that driveway, provided that the driveway was no deeper than 150 feet from the street curb. That 150 feet actually is derived from a fire code standard having to do with how far a fire apparatus or fire vehicle will enter into a driving surface before a requirement for a full turnaround for that fire vehicle. And it does not serve more than 4 units. So in summary, you could have 4 units on a lot with a driveway up to 150 feet that's allowed to be 12 feet from the private property back for the width in the surface area, but still have that wider driveway approach consistent with our public works standards. Are there any questions about driveway and the recommendation that's being made? This is also exact same language being represented for the multifamily residential zone as well.
Any questions from council? Not seeing any. All right, since this is a change, kind of amending an ordinance.
This is the one item that was held out in the motion of the city council. All the other ordinances were unanimously recommended to move forward or be adopted with the exception of this one section. So we'd just be looking for a final vote of this final language.
So it already council, we've had the first and second read, so this is just the final language on this. All right, is there a desire of council on this change?
Yeah, move to approve.
And first moved by Mr. Beinecker. Do I have a second? Second
I'll
by
second
Ms.
that. Oh, sorry.
Second by Ms. Morton. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Can't see the screens of our other members.
Aye.
I see thumbs up now. That all those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 6-0. And that'll move us to item H, ordinance C-1082, 17.09, multifamily residential zone. Ms. Chalman?
Thank you. Again, the same language that you just saw, except that it would be in the residential multifamily zone for driveway width at 16 feet at the approach, narrowing to 12 feet for 150 feet in depth, serving no more than 4 units on one lot.
Questions, comments from council? Beinecker?
Move to approve.
Been moved by Mr. Beinecker. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Ritchie. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And that also passes unanimously 6-0.
Thank you so much.
Troutman. And that'll move us on to our resolutions. First is item I, resolution 2025-008, the 2025 administrative fees. Mr. Tripp?
Thank you. I'm going to defer this to Mr. Schubert.
Thank you, Mr. Tripp. This is a resolution that was introduced to City Council last week during the study session. It is to adopt a 3% flat fee for credit card charges, acceptance for purchases in excess of $1,500 to cover the fees for the city. If there's any questions, I will answer those.
Questions from council? Was briefed at last week's study session. What is the desire of council on resolution 2025-008? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Been moved by Mr. Ritchie. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Chair Bowman. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And motion passes unanimously 6-0. Moving on to item J, resolution 2025-009, change order policy and procedure.
Thank you very much. Chair and Council, this resolution 2025-09 was briefed to the council last week. It essentially looks to establish a policy for the consideration of change orders. Change orders, as you're aware, can occur on a project and usually equate in the form of either addition of contract time, reduction in contract time, addition of contract price, or reduction in contract price. This proposed policy and procedure would allow for staff to approve a change order up to, but not exceeding the contingency amount associated with the contract. I think within the wording of the actual document, it refers to as the administrative fee, or excuse me, the administrative amount, but those two are interchangeable. The contingency, all projects have a contingency baked into them for unforeseen circumstances. This policy would allow for staff to be able to approve either a single or a cumulative series of change orders up to, but not to exceed that amount. Any amount that's in excess of that contingency amount would be brought to the city council for authorization before action was taken.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tripp. Questions or comments from council? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Mr. Malay has moved to approve. Do I have a second? Mr. Ritchie? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And resolution passes unanimously 6-0. Moving on to item K, resolution 2025-010, cash drawer and petty cash limits. Mr. Schubert?
Thank you, Mr. Perry. This resolution 2025-010 was introduced to council last week on the study session. It's to update the cash drawer limits as well as petty cash limits. We have been advised, or court has been advised to lower their limits, and we would like to update the limits within the finance department as well as the recreation department to reflect what we should be holding there.
Thank you, Mr. Schubert. Any questions or comments, council? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Been moved by Mr. Malay. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Ritchie. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And motion passes unanimously 6-0. Moving on to item L, resolution 2025-012, waiving bidding requirements.
Thank you, Chair and Council. This was briefed to the council last week in the study session. And tonight we're respectfully requesting the council to approve the resolution authorizing the acquisition of police vehicles, waiving the competitive bidding requirements for special market conditions.
Mr. Beinecker?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Beinecker. I have a second from Ms. Morton. Any discussion, comments from council? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Resolution passes unanimously 6-0. Our final item tonight, item M, resolution 2025-013, right-of-way procedures. Mr. Flue.
Good evening. This item was introduced last week. The study session, it's to update the city's right-of-way procedures. We'd ask that you do so.
That's it?
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Flute. Any questions, comments from council? Can I get a motion, Ms. Morton?
Morton, I just wanted to say, because I read through it and I think it's pivotal that we have something like that that's so structured and that we can follow. So I really appreciate,
Is that a first from Ms. Morton?
Sorry,
Been
yes.
moved by Ms. Morton. Do I have a second? Mr. Beinecker? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And that resolution passes unanimously 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, that'll move us on to citizen comments. Anyone in the gallery or online, we can ask you come forward and state your name and address and limit your comments to 5 minutes. I'm not seeing any. You're in the chambers or online. No call for a workshop, no call for an additional executive session.
I was
that case,
wondering, is this the time where the HERE team could present?
Sorry, Mr. Chair and Council. There was an additional item in which was thought to be placed on the agenda tonight, which includes a presentation on the HERE grant. The group of people you saw here earlier, they were here for that, but I've advised him that we'll get them scheduled on a different meeting. So I'm thinking the next study session, if that aligns for everybody's calendar, But I apologize for the confusion, Elise and council.
Subsequent meeting. All right. Thank you, Mr. Tripp. In that case, no further items. We'll move to adjourn at 6:31 PM.
All right, thank you, guys.